This is Lesson 7-1, Integer Exponents. Today we will evaluate and simplify expressions containing zero and integer exponents. Copy these exponent properties to your handout sheet. Notice the property is already filled in for you. You need to complete the words and at least 2 examples. Pause the video at this time. Property number 2. Copy this information to your handout sheet. You will need to copy the words and at least 2 examples. Pause the video at this time. Property number 3. Complete this information on your handout sheet. Copy the words and at least 2 examples. Pause the video at this time. You know how to evaluate positive exponents. What if an exponent is 0 or a negative? What do you think the value of 5 to the 0 or 5 to the negative 2 is? Let us use a table to determine the answer. Here we have 5 to the 5th, 5 to the 4th, 5 to the 3rd, and it continues. If you find the value of each of these, you can find a pattern. So 5 to the 5th is 3,125. 5 to the 4th is 625. Notice, if you divide by 5, you can get that pattern. So if we continue, 5 to the 3rd is 125. Again, dividing by 5, we see a pattern. 5 squared is 25. 5 to the 1st is 5. If we continue the pattern of dividing by 5, 5 to the 0 power would be 1, which by what our exponent properties tells us this is true. Anything to the 0 power is 1. 5 to the negative 1, if we continue to divide by 5 or multiply by the reciprocal, we get 1/5. Answers should be in fraction forms, no decimals for your answers. 1/5 divided by 5, or again, multiply by the reciprocal, you get 1/25. To simplify exponential expressions, an exponential expression is in completely simplified form if the following things occur. Be sure to copy these to your paper. You have no negative exponents. The same base does not appear more than once in a product or a quotient. No powers are raised to powers. No products are raised to powers. No quotients are raised to powers. Numerical coefficients in a quotient do not have any common factors other than 1. Example number 1. 7 to the 0 power. Well, anything to the 0 power equals 1. Notice property number 1 says if we have something to the 0 power, it equals 1. Example number 2. 5 to the negative 3. Choose the property that we will use. Notice property number 2 says if you have a negative exponent, you can change it to become positive by flipping it to the denominator. So that's going to be 1/5 to the 3rd. You will need to simplify your answers. 1/125 is our simplified form. Example number 3. 1/10 to the negative 3rd. Notice, the property we will use is property number 3. We can flip this negative exponent to the numerator to make it become positive. So we have 10 to the 3rd power. Again, simplify your answers. This gives us 1,000. Example number 4. 2/m to the 0. Look at your exponent properties and determine which one we will use. The 2 does not have an exponent. However, the m to the 0 has the exponent, and it does equal 1. So this becomes 2 over 1, which equals 2. Example number 5. Negative 5 raised to the negative 4th power. Look at your exponent properties and notice this is property number 2. We're going to flip that negative exponent to the denominator, make it become positive. However, the base is negative, and it will remain negative in our answer. So we'll have 1 over negative 5 to the positive 4th power. Again, remember that negative 5 remains negative. This can simplify to 1 over 625. Example number 6. 1 over negative 3 raised to the negative 2 power. Look at your exponent properties and see that it is like property number 3. We have a negative exponent, so that can change to a positive by flipping to the numerator. Again, here the base is negative and it remains negative in our answer. So we have negative 3 raised to the positive 2. That can simplify to equal a positive 9. Example number 7. This time we have negative 5 raised to the negative 4th power. However, the 5 is not negative. Only the 5 as a positive number is raised to the negative 4. So when we simplify and use the property number 2, the negative will remain out front of the problem, and the 5 flips to the bottom with a positive exponent of a 4. So our final answer in this case will be negative 1 over 625. Example number 8. We have 7 times w to the negative 4. Here we will use property number 2. We will change that negative exponent to a positive by moving it to the denominator. However, the exponent is not on the 7, so it will stay in the numerator. So we have 7 times 1 over w to the 4th, or the simplified answer would be 7 over w to the 4th. Example number 9. We have negative 5 over k to the negative 2. Notice the negative 5 does not have an exponent, so it will stay in the numerator. The k to the negative 2, we will need to use property number 3 to simplify. So negative 5 times k to the positive 2 is our final answer. Example number 10. We have r to the negative 3 over 7. Notice here the negative 3 is only on the r, so the 7 will remain in the denominator. Using property number 2, we can simplify this example and make it become 1 over 7 times r to the 3rd. Example number 11, g to the 4th over h to the negative 6. Notice here the g to the 4th we will not need to simplify. However, the h to the negative 6 we will need to use property number 3 in order to make it in simplest forms. You can flip that h to the negative 6 to the numerator to make it become positive. So our answer will be g to the 4th times h to the 6th. Example number 12. Here we will have multiple properties we will need to use. When doing this problem, work one step at a time. We will start with the a to the 0. Well, anything to the 0 power equals 1. So 1 times b to the negative 2 over c to the negative 3 times d to the 6. We'll now simplify the b to the negative 2. Notice here we can use property number 2. When we move this to the denominator, put it in front of the c to the negative 3 d to the 6. We like to put things in alphabetical order. So now we're going to have 1 over b squared c to the negative 3 d to the 6. Our final property we will need to use is property number 3. That c to the negative 3 can be moved to the numerator as a positive exponent with property number 3. Our final answer will be 1 times c to the third over b squared d to the 6. The 1 as the coefficient in front of the c is not required to be written in our final answer. This concludes Lesson 7-1, Integer Exponents. We have evaluated and simplified expressions containing zero and integer exponents.